just me, or does it feel like we've had an international break every bloody other week? Now, I've got to be honest, I'm not a fan of international football. Of course, you know, when England are playing in a major tournament, I'll watch the tournament. You know, I do. You know, I like the World Cup, you know, and I like the European Championships, but only because it's in the closed season, right? So it's in the closed season, so it's the only other football I can get. And it's on so regular that you get a good fix of football. But this international break is just feels so needless. Like, we're just getting going, we're back on a break again. And I'm not, you know, like I say, I'm not a big fan of international football. I mean, you know, England versus Albania on a Friday night is not something I could really get too enthusiastic about. Luckily, my good friend Steve, he's flying off to Jamaica, the lucky bugger, to get married, and so me and my boys are going out with him for a few beers and something to eat on Friday night, so I won't even be watching it. But I do feel really let down that there is no Premier League football, which is really disappointing. And to add to that, my cheeky wife has decided to go off for a holiday in Cyprus for a week, and she's left me all Macaulay Culkin. I'm all home alone. So not only am I home alone, I've also got no football. So I can't go football, and I can't really talk about football even on YouTube, because there ain't going to be any Tottenham to talk about. So, and I'm not going to talk about England Albania because I ain't going to be watching it, because I'm going to be out having a few scoops. So that's a bit disappointing. Anyway, enough of my troubles. What do we think then? Antonio Conte, 2 games in, unbeaten, a win and a draw, our first draw of the season. I have to say the hype and the excitement from the Spurs fans, and also from other fans who have kind of started to say how exciting it is to have such a big manager back in the Premier League, and we've pretty much got all the top managers of the world managing our teams. Is quite a statement. Obviously, it's far too early to judge the work that Conte is going to be doing, what he's seeing, what he's doing, what he's thinking. But what we can do is reflect on what's happened over the last couple of games. And the only reason we can do that is because, in my opinion, and this is all just about opinions, right? In my opinion, we've seen a level of improvement that we wasn't necessarily expecting so quickly. And by that, what I'm talking about is the intensity and the desire, which seems to have been missing for so long under Nuno. And just have to say, with regards to Nuno, whilst I was not a fan of his football, and I was glad to see the back of him from that perspective, very classy of him to put a nice message out thanking the fans for their support whilst they were supporting him. And I personally wish him well. I hope he goes on to go to somewhere else where whatever he needs to do will work for him. But certainly at this moment in time, he is definitely not what Tottenham needed. Certainly not at the start of play we want, and so on. But I do wish him well, and and I do feel, that it was a nice thing for him to put out a message in that way. And I hope that one day he can come back and get a warm reception, because it's not necessarily his fault. Because we don't know what goes on behind closed doors as to what kind of led to him being appointed, and the difficulties he had and how he may have seen them, because obviously he will see them a little bit differently to how we will see them. But going back to Conte, like I've said, a little bit more intensity, a little bit more heart, a little bit more endeavour. You could see that the system's changed with the 3 at the back, and the and the high presser of the wingers sort of being his favoured expectation of what he's doing. And to a certain extent it's working from that point of view. We are seeing Emerson bombing up the right side and Region bombing up the left, which has been good to see. I guess for me the missing part of this is the quality of the final ball going in, certainly from Region, in terms of him actually getting the ball to the right place at the right time. Don't play a flat ball across the box when your main striker is at the back post. You need to get it up over the top, or getting it over the not playing it over the top when he's running onto that kind of thing, that bit of vision. I would like to see him get his head up a little bit more, bomb forward, get your head up, stop cutting back because it's too predictable. Get the ball in there fast and quickly as you can. Give Kane and Son the confidence that you are going to get it in the right place for them to make it worthwhile. Emerson, I think, has shown a lot more quality over the last couple of games, although I didn't think he was too bad under Nuno. I felt he was a bit restricted, but he wasn't playing particularly badly. Ultimately, you still got to play with the players that you've got, and it is going to be frustrating for us as fans watching him roll out certain players who will get the inevitable hate, and I'm talking about Dyer, I'm talking about Doherty, I'm talking about Dele, Højbjerg, Davis, just to name a few that are getting a fair bit of stick and have got a fair bit of stick over the course of time. And to an extent, a lot of that is deserved. Let's be frank about it. You can't sort of paint it into something that it isn't. But ultimately, these guys are professional footballers. And I know someone's going to write on there they shouldn't be, but they are professional footballers. They have come through academies. They've had lots of coaching and so on. So there are people that are far more qualified than you or I that are able to talk about the qualities of those individuals. I don't believe that Conte will be able to get the best out of every one of those players, but I do feel that with the right sort of coaching and the right sort of support, not all of these players are dead food, ready for the scrap heap. I do think, there is something in there. I mean, if you take Dyer, for instance, he was lauded for a long time and wanted by a lot of clubs. And you kind of look at it and go, okay, he gets in the wrong position from time to time. He makes poor mistakes, but can he learn to be better? Can he learn from his partner? Can he build a relationship with the player next to him to try to alleviate some of those? Has he been put in some of those positions just by the other players around him? So I don't necessarily think he's, a lost cause. I think, he hasn't been great. I'm not going to lie about that. But, there are worse players around than Eric Dyer. And the thing I do commend him for is his attitude and his desire. He's never been one to give up. He's never been one to not get himself on board and get himself into the game. He's not a sulker or anything like that. So I think, there is an opportunity. And I think, the manager has got to look at the squad and see what he's got and see how they come together to decide whether they are, still good enough or not, or still what he wants. What does he have to replace? What does he have to work with? What can he improve? What has he got to give up on? And I think those players that have the right attitude and the right desire will be the ones that will benefit in this overall situation. So only time's really gonna tell. But I'm using Dyer as an example because on the other hand, you've got Ndombele, okay, who I think is a hugely talented individual. He has definitely got something about him in terms of his control and vision and so on. The problem is, has he got the right attitude to make it? Now, I did a live stream with Chris Cowling at the weekend after the Everton game, and I said on there that I felt that he's done, that he's dead. In terms of this squad, I think he needs to leave. I think he needs to move on to somewhere else. I don't think he's got the heart for the Premier League. I think his abilities lie maybe in the French league or Italy or somewhere like that, where he's got more time on the ball. He hasn't got to run so much and all the rest of it, and that for me is where I see him going. So I don't think that Conte will be able to get the best out of him, and that's my point, right? And that, I guess, is when I'm talking about Dyer and Ndombele, if he was in a ruck in a pub somewhere, you'd certainly want Eric Dyer at your back more than you would want Ndombele at your back, so I guess that's where the manager will have to look in terms of who's got my back, who's gonna do what I need them to do, who's gonna put their neck on the line for me, because what I don't need is disruptive, sulking, lazy players around me, because that's not going to help me. So I think he's got to assess that, and I think that's what we saw against Everton with the likes of Doherty coming on and Winks and so on, and of course he's playing a back three, so who else is he going to put in a back three on the left other than Davis? To be honest with you, who else goes in that position? So there is an element of having to play the players that he's got and wanting to play the players that he's got to see the quality of what he's got and what he can do with it. So I think there's a whole time of reflection that we need to hold our patience on. I don't think it's a simple case of get rid of this one, get rid of this one, get rid of this one, because you've got to have teams that are willing to pay a reasonable amount of money for them. I mean, our view would be just get rid of them regardless of what you get offered. We would all say that, but it's a business, isn't it? It's not going to happen like that. There's got to be a certain level of investment from somebody else to make it worth selling an Ndombele or something like that. But I think there's some hard decisions to come. I think the biggest one, who's getting an awful lot of stick at the moment, and quite rightly, because you get lauded when you do well, you get called out when you don't. Harry Kane. So a lot of people calling out that his problems lie from the fact that he wanted to leave and blah blah blah. Without actually talking to Harry Kane and really getting the in the know direct from him, or someone who is actually credible on all this, we don't know. We don't know what his views was. You can kind of imagine, if you're Harry Kane sat there and you've just had a great World Cup, and you've got your chairman saying to you, yeah, well done, you've done really well, you sat close and all the rest of it, but what we're doing is we're actually going to bring in Nuno Espirito Santo to be your next manager. He's going to look after you, he's going to take you to the next level, he's going to be the guy that delivers the silverware. You're going to go, really is that what we're thinking? Is it that's where we're at now? Is it? We've just lost Jose Mourinho, who from a fan's perspective wasn't what he was, but certainly from a player's perspective, they're going to look up to him for what he's delivered. And I don't think I don't think Harry had any issues playing for Mourinho, whereas perhaps some of the others did. So if your choices are Nuno or Pep, take you to the next level, get you the medals you desire, right? But I don't necessarily think it was like, oh, I can't go and play for Pep, so I'm going to go on a sulk. I think he's just suffering from an overuse and an over-reliance, and I think it's tough. He's not getting in the creativity, he's not in the team, they're not giving him the chances, they're not giving him the opportunity. And a lot of the time, Harry would have carved a lot of them out for himself. But when you've been playing such a defensive-minded system, it's not been that easy for him. So maybe I'm making excuses for him, because I'm not prepared to give up on the guy just yet. I think he's earned enough credit in my heart to say, he deserves the benefit of the doubt to see it through. And I think that someone like Conte will get him in a better place, will get him in the position that he needs to be in, to score the amount of goals he needs to score. And if a little bit of silverware comes his way, then he may be convinced that Tottenham isn't all that bad, and he can certainly become a legend, or and a winner. So I guess it's just a case of let's see what happens. I think my final kind of thoughts about players in this whole situation is Winks, who well, actually there's two, but Winks I like the fact that he is a Tottenham fan through and through. He's local and blah 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 and all the rest of it. And I like that about Winks. But it's gone on so long for him not producing to for us to be able to kind of go, he is a good player. He's a player that you would want in your squad. And I think he's losing confidence. He's not playing on a regular basis and so on. And he's been playing in a weak team that's not had any kind of creativity around him or whatever. But I think he's an outsider in my mind of someone who Conte may get hold of, put his arm around and go, you know what, I can see you doing this in this team for me. Now, whatever that is, I don't know, but I just have that feeling that might be the one, the person who he takes on board and says, right, I'm gonna convert you from a defensive minded to a full on creative midfielder. I don't know, but I just have this feeling that he may resurrect Winks' career somewhere along the line. I may well be proved wrong. But the final one, and I promise this is the final one because I know I'm rabbiting on, is Dele. I absolutely 100% believe that Dele needs to go. I think that he is a dead man walking. The fact that he put out some videos of him training hard and all the rest of it is admirable. I think in his mind he's probably keen and really wants to do well, but in the application it's just not happening. He's lost whatever it was that he had, and there are too many distractions in the man's life. He's got his terrible clothing range with Boohoo, so that just is cringe. Plus he's a young guy who's into a lot of the things that the young guys are into, not just young guys, but in the PlayStation games and fashion and going out and sleeping with really attractive women. I don't sound too bitter, do I? I'm not sure I'm being too bitter, but the guy's a millionaire, living a great life, meeting up with the most eligible ladies around, and having time on his hands to do what he wants and all the rest of it. So I mean, it's not a terrible life for the lad, but at the same time, it's not great for us, because I think it's a distraction that takes him away from what we really want from him, which is his wholehearted commitment to Tottenham and to football. So I think Dele's probably on his way. He's on his way to somewhere else he's got to be, and and if we can get some decent money for him, I think that's what should happen. So yeah, I know I'm rambling. Apologies, but in essence, what I'm saying is, Conte needs the time. If Conte is not the man to take Tottenham forward, if he is not the man to solve the conundrum that we've had certainly since Pochettino left, and certainly towards the end of Pochettino, because let's bear in mind, as great as Poch was, didn't win us anything. If Conte isn't the man, then I really don't know where ENIC and Daniel Levy go next. I don't know what they can do that's going to make a difference. I just hope that the purse strings are released to give Conte the opportunity to develop something. If he can bring some funds in by shifting out some of the players who are clearly not good enough, and there are a fair few there, that he could kind of, if someone wants them, would add to the transfer budget. But it's going to need to be supplemented, Danny boy, and you need to get hold of Uncle Joe and say, please sir, can I have some more? And then let's see where we go. So early days, a win, a draw. We didn't concede a goal in against Everton, which is fantastic. Bearing in mind we've been shipping threes. So let's give it time and see what happens, and hopefully keep the faith and keep supporting our team. Up the Spurs!